Thank you, Mr. Jackson. We just have one item on the agenda as a part of the MOU between the Somerville Parks Foundation and the town of Somerville. We are to bring an annual report to you each year. And so today I'd like to present you with the 2024 annual report. It is the second year for the Somerville Parks Foundation. It's been a great year. They were able to get the website launched. So we have that presence now. Some of our initiatives were the Low Country Sings event, which received the 2024 Lehman Award for Innovative Event Production by the National Association of Parks Foundations. We also launched the Hometown Hero Memorial Banner Program, which was very successful. We've done that again this year. The main projects this year were the partnership with First Citizens for the splash pad shade structures, the Azalea Park Children's Discovery Garden. It is worth noting that this year, all of the funds from Leadership Dorchester did not come through the Somerville Parks Foundation, so those numbers are not included in this report. Those went through the chamber report, whereas in 2023, everything with the Leadership Dorchester project did go through the Parks Foundation. And then we are currently in the progress of working with Boeing to do some sawmill trail renovations. As you can see, the gross receipts for the year was $81,716, with $66,628 expended back to directly to Somerville Parks and Recreation. Sir. Yeah, yes, sir. The impact fees are, but none of the impact fees go towards the Somerville Parks Foundation. This is independent money that was independently raised. Yes, sir. And that's all that we had. Thank you.
Air.
How's everybody doing? Yes, sir. Good to go. It was. Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. The fire department did a great job as well. And Parks, hats off to you, Amy and her team. It is. I'm prepared to discuss anything you want to ask.
So tell us about this discussion of requesting Homeland Security.
Yeah, so we have agreements with the DEA, the FBI, the United States Marshal Service, United States Secret Service, and we are entering into MOUs with the Homeland Security investigations, as well as the ATF will be coming up probably next month as well. I did mention the DEA. We are involved with them as well. But we have a very big footprint with the federal task forces here in the Low Country. We're uniquely, located because of the 3 counties and the exponential growth we're seeing here. So a lot of their cases are crossing in to the town and out of the town. We recently had the recent arrest of the 3 Trenza de Agua gang members at Palmetto State Armory, where HSI came in and assisted us in that investigation. And that is still ongoing, and it has international ties. So being able to have those connections with those federal entities, when we can pick the phone up and call them and have the ability to be in task force positions with them, it helps us as a force multiplier as a town of Somerville, as a law enforcement entity, not just here, but on the federal level.
That's going up on our agenda for Thursday night that we're
No, ma'am,
voting on.
if you all agreed to it, I guess that would be, we would enter into the agreement, I would suspect, right?
Yeah, y'all can, if you'd like to move it up to the full council, you can for their discussion and input. Otherwise, this is something that we want to put on y'all's radar. Give you, at least you the opportunity as a committee to ask questions about it. Chief, talk about the reimbursement.
Yes, so obviously we have asset forfeiture agreements with the federal government. Obviously, the ones that we gain benefit from mostly are the Drug Enforcement Administration. Obviously, proceeds of assets that are either United States currency and or proceeds from items that have been seized, such as vehicles, boats, houses, bank accounts. Those types of items, we get what's called a DAG out of that, which means we get percentages based off of our involvement with that case. We have roughly a lot of money sitting, waiting. It's frozen right now because of the United States government and obviously Doge. But we get that money mainly from them and the FBI. Homeland Security has much more statutory authority than any other agency in the federal government because they have the ability to investigate anything that comes in from overseas. And they can investigate those up and to include search without search warrants. So there's a lot of things that are coming to Summerville, people who are moving to Summerville, and certainly we want to keep our town safe. And so the asset forfeiture is certainly a great benefit when we have the ability to have an investigation that seizes items and or currency and it's forfeited, then we're able to use that to our benefit for drug investigations, criminal investigations and training, equipment in some cases too. So. Yes, sir. So they pay we have people assigned to task forces that are salaried through the town of Summerville. However, they will pay for certain things and certain people's participation in these particular ventures to include money that's used for buy bust or to allow money to be used for to buy drugs, illegal weapons, any of those types of things, as well as vehicles, fuel. Just the sky's the limit, really, to be quite frank with you. So.
Is some of the police department being reimbursed by the?
Yes, sir. That's the forfeiture piece that we were discussing, and it does. Yes, sir. We do get that. It just has to go through appropriations, has to go through litigation through the defendant and the federal government, and they have attorneys that deal with those types of cases for us. It's just it's much bigger version of what we do on the state level. We have a federal drug fund. We have a state drug fund. They don't cross paths, but we could use certain things, certain monies for certain things. And we've done that. We bought new firearms for the entire police department last year at no cost to taxpayers with drug money.
Well, I'll make a motion that we move this forward to council.
I'll second.
Okay, we got it. Call for adjournment.
Vote. Aye.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Oh, make motion for. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, well, I call to order the next committee, Public Works and Committee on Water Supply.
Yes, the first item on the agenda is the discussion of a signal warrant study at White Gables Boulevard and Central Avenue. This intersection is a concern and I frequently contact DOT about it. The last time that I did, they responded with, positive news that they will consider, signal warrant study, or they will consider signalization if they are provided a signal warrant study. And if it meets the warrants, they will install the signal with the town doing a construction project to widen the road a little bit, make some intersection improvements. to install a left turn lane for the Village at Central that's across the street from the White Gables neighborhood. To install that and any other, intersection improvements that may be needed to align the intersection. So where we are now is getting the traffic counts for that study and then pursuing that, knowing that it'll cost, money in the future if it meets the warrants. I have reached out to Dorchester County and they've recently conducted traffic counts for the Central Avenue widening project. And, they're looking at that. So they will share that information with me and I can continue coordinating with them and then just keep y'all updated on the progress.
So we won't need to do our own traffic study then? We can work
It
off of
doesn't
theirs.
look like we will need to.
Good.
Great.
That's
Yes.
great.
And we had talked, Bonnie, about maybe doing some, like a temporary, because of the widening projects about to take place out there, instead of maybe DOT would give us a temporary signal there without the additional work, intersection improvements, knowing that the intersection improvements are coming soon.
Right.
I guess no other discussion on that.
No, that's what was brought up to them. I reiterated to the district traffic office, just a temporary signal would be appreciated.
Right.
And they said they would still need a warrant study.
All right.
Okay.
I think it's great. That's good news.
So
That's-
yes,
That's
it's good news.
that's
So
a
you
good
don't-
area. So-
You don't need anything from us right now.
I don't believe so. Just keep y'all
Okay.
Yeah,
updated.
Please do. I know the
Yes.
people out there have been discussing this, this light for quite a number of years and, it's, out of big ticket items in my district, that's one of the
Yes.
ones I hear about. So
Mhm. Yeah. So
Thank
I'll
you.
come back with, what I hear from Dorchester County, which I expect to hear something within the next month or so.
thank you.
Okay.
It's great.
All right, the next item on the agenda is an update from the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. And I believe we have committee members. All right. Okay. This is the chairman and vice chairman, Amanda Metzger and Jean Brislin.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you guys doing? We were waiting on Tiffany, but we're able to conduct a walk audit last week up in your district near Somerville High School and Gregg Middle School, which was really well received. We'll have a full report ready for you guys, hopefully before the town council meeting. So I'm still grabbing some survey results, but one of the intersections that we were most closely looking at was right at Loudon Drive and 17A. In that intersection, there are many kids that cut across from the Corey Woods neighborhood. And we were watching many kids that were walking and biking on the wrong side of the street, cutting across Parks Fields and dodging across, Boone Hill to try to get to Somerville High School. So lots of great observations. We'll be including some of those and recommendations to move forward with our priority list. I'll let Jean chime in.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Right.
so if you look at the Luton and Boone Hill there, SCDOT in its wisdom did the signal install, and we have rumple rips for 3-foot sidewalks that go nowhere, right? So there's one on each corner. And it's kind of funny in that they didn't do a crosswalk. So you think they would have added a crosswalk. So yeah, that's one of our priorities. The mayor had asked us for some low hanging fruit, and I think that's one, especially based on the walk audit that we did and the population of kids and trying to encourage them to use bikes to get to the high school. So anyways, that's,
Yeah, I think one of the issues over there, in that area over there is just the lack of sidewalks in general. Once you get into Coreywood subdivision, of course, you got a Loudon Drive, you got a sidewalk all the way down, and across the road where they come across, they're hitting the apron you're speaking of, and then they're going down into a ditch basically. So it's just there's nothing to get to there. So it's funny. I rode around I had a chance to ride around the other day after I apologize for missing the audit, but Farmington Road, just in Corey Woods, it's the only street that I could find that had sidewalks, and actually had them on both sides of the road going down, and then they just ended, just stopped. So it's just kind of funny, and they've been there for generations. So it's just, they were done a long time ago, but it's interesting.
And a lot of the things with the walk audits, it's like that low hanging fruit, like the
Mhm.
mayor said, that we've been looking for. So even in front of the high school where the sidewalk goes right across where the cars pull out, like there's not a painted crosswalk even where everyone's coming out where they should be feeding in. There's a brand new sidewalk down Greenway Boulevard, which is great, except there's not a crosswalk to get the kids to the school because the sidewalk's on the opposite side. So are gonna make some recommendations for even just painting and some signs to get kids safely from there over to the bike rack.
So I'm gonna beat on you a little bit. That road, that sidewalk is a county sidewalk. And they surely happen faster than one on Lee Street. So that's you. Right, so anyways, I know we've made progress on Lee Street, so I'm not. But we did, the committee a couple of years ago did kind of a philosophy of trying to, when we asked at that particular time for a $300,000 or $400,000 yearly kind of budget line item for sidewalks. In these older communities built, I'm in Newington, we have sidewalks everywhere, right? So we're an unusual neighborhood. Quail Arbor, all of those old ones don't have those sidewalks. And I think philosophically, what we like to grow to is like Farmington, where every neighborhood has at least one sidewalk out of it, the old neighborhoods. And so, and then get that to Central or wherever the main sidewalk is. And so we can't go back to those neighborhoods and add sidewalks everywhere. But if we had one kind of conduit out in those old neighborhoods, and then we get the trail working, and you can go from Oak Brook, Mr. Jackson, all the way to, you can go with the new Maple Street extension, you could almost go all the way to Nexton and over all the way over that way. So if that super highway, we call that the bike ped super highway, and then we have these neighborhoods with this one conduit out, it would create a huge opportunity for bicycle and pedestrian stuff. Absolutely. We're looking at low hanging fruit with the walk audits. We still want to do that as much as we can, but we're trying to create this kind of biking and fitness community to help people, and hopefully an alternate means of transportation with electric bikes that we see on the trail quite a bit these days.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, I would move we adjourn.
Okay, I'll second that. Aye.
Aye.
All right, we have everyone up here. I'll call the Finance Committee meeting to order and turn it over to you, Ms. Rhonda.
All right, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. You have before you the March financial report. We've completed 75% of the year. For the month, we collected 2.7 in revenue, year to date 31 million. Our expenses exceeded our revenues by 1.2 million. We had expenses of 4 million, and to date 37 million. So expenditures to date is 75% of our expenditures. Again, the revenues for April, May, and June will be strong on the business license side. So we should see an increase there. Transfers in of 308,000 for year to date of 2.7. So year to date, our expenses have exceeded our revenues by just over 3 million. That's summary. For revenues, we had a little bit more property taxes collected for the month, 346,000. Again, we are at 19.6 year to date, over budgeted for that line item of 657,000. For license permits and fees, we've collected 1.2 million, and year to date of 4.5. Again, that's where our business licenses will kick in. Municipal court fines, 27,000 collected for the month, year to date 216. For state revenues, we collected 223,000 in local option sales tax, year to date just under 3.7 million. Any questions on any of those before I move to the next page? Parks and Recreation revenues, we collected right at 57,000, year to date, 418. Miscellaneous revenues, 832,000, year to date, just under 2.9. And the transfers are the transfer from local hospitality that we discussed earlier. So year to date, 34 million in revenues through the end of March. Any questions, observations? Impact fees, we collected right at 80,000 for the month between residential and commercial impact fees. Year-to-date revenues are just under 2.7 million in both of those categories. We spent right at just over 200,000 between in impact fees for Parks and Rec and municipal, and our year-to-date expenditures are 900,000, excuse me, and our excess is 1.7 million. Any questions on any of those items? This report, you have local hospitality and local accommodations. We are right on target with what we have collected thus far in H-Tax. We collected 500 and almost 550,000 for the month, year to date 4.4. We had a couple of special events and tourism grants that also we collected during the month. Our year-to-date excess of revenues over expenses is 340,000. Local accommodations, we collected 20,000, year-to-date 284. We do have the expenditure for the barricades that have not been paid for yet that will come out of this account. But other than that, we don't have any other expenses. So anything on these items? Stormwater. We collected right at 70,000. Our expenses were just under 140 for a deficit of right at 70,069. Our year to date, we have 2.8 million in revenue and 1.8 in expenses for a net revenues over expenses of right at $1 million. Anything else regarding these items?
Any questions for Ms. Rhonda? Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate you.
I have a couple of items that I want to kind of put on your radar. Try to take small bites of our budget process and some of our decisions that we have to make and just put them before you now, giving you maybe a little more time to think about some things. So we've talked about police vehicles and how do we finance them, and we've gone round and round. We talked about the enterprise lease with Enterprise that Chief Wright and his team spent a lot of work in looking at that option. They looked at commercial leases through GM. I really feel like that if we're going to look at anything like that, we should just be in the government finance lease programs, because that's a lower interest rate. Interest rates through GM are 7-ish. I think Enterprise was the same thing. And with a municipal lease, we can be 4.5 or really even less than that. So I feel like unless there's another benefit that you see from one of those other programs, I feel like that we can, that we should be able to do that. So I put together some numbers to try to kind of make some of this make sense. And I'm going to give you an overview first, and then we'll look at some of the details. We've talked about capital funding. What do we do? How do we do it? So this is what if we took $2 million from fund balance and assumed that maybe each year we would have a surplus of $1.5 million. If we took half of that and then took all the sales of assets that we have, cars, whatever, and put that in this fund, what would it look like? So this is one of the scenarios for leases. And obviously, if you lease 20 cars this year and 15 cars next year, it's going to compound. So the dollars that you're going to need are going to be higher in each year. And we can come back to this after we look at some of the leases as well. So the first year lease for 20 cars is $524,000. For 20 cars plus 15 cars the next year, if you look at FY27, it's $900,000. And then it climbs, and it will climb to about 1.7, 1.8 million, which is where we will be. Also, when we looked at some of our capital needs, we had a radio refresh. So I wanted to go ahead and put these numbers in there to show you what a possible capital fund might look like. There's a replacement on a streets vehicle for about 75,000 as well. In FY27, I've also populated, you say other, we're going to have some other equipment needs, car needs. So I just estimated that to give you kind of an idea. Estimated that for FY28. And then you also see for fire truck lease, it's blank, but we're going to need another fire truck. So we need a number there as well. I wanted just to give you an idea of what that looks like. And as you can see, I have nothing in there for a fire truck lease, and we're already out of money based on this scenario over these 3 years. That's not roses by any means, but I just wanted to give you kind of an idea of what something might look like and kind of where we might need to be if we're looking at a lease. Now, next one. Purchase. Okay, let's say we don't want to do a lease. Same scenario, except for instead of transferring 2 million from fund balance, I do 2.5 million. Same assumptions, about 1.5 million of surplus and the sale of assets. The purchase of 20 police cars in the first year would be 1.8 million. The second year at 15 cars, it would be 1.4 million, and so on. We run out of money quicker. I'm not saying this is, not advantageous, because we still have to find the funding. The radio refresh, all the other factors are the same. Still no fire truck lease in here. There's some, my scenario of lease purchases is doing it like 4 years and assuming a car is going to last for 7 years. So I feel like we're not being, eat up with interest costs and just constantly in that, that circle. I think if there's a revenue stream, then I think, yeah, we can move away from it. The interest cost isn't that great to me if it's a way to even out cash flow. That is not advantageous. I was trying to do some research, and City of Charleston, every year they take all their stuff, put it out on bid for municipal lease, and they lease everything.
Do you think that it's possible in the future we'll do more of sinking fund type
Well, that's
money for the police department?
that's kind of what I'm envisioning this is for all capital purposes, not only for police cars, but for other equipment needs. And fire trucks. Obviously fire trucks are a perfect application of lease purchase because you can pay for them over 10, but it's going to last 15 or more. What I don't want is to get into a situation where you've just like your personal vehicle that you financed it for the whole life of what it is. I feel like if we try to shorten that up a little, it saves you on interest, and then you have a little bit of cushion that you're not having to pay for something the whole time.
Thank you.
Those,
That's just my philosophy on that.
so on your 27 and 28 numbers on this, we aren't anticipating any use of general fund transfers for those.
No,
Just, and I know you can't because you don't
Yeah.
know what surplus is going to look like and what you're going to look like in
This
2 years.
this assumes that we'll
Yeah.
have a surplus of 1.5 million each of
Right.
those years, and that we choose to transfer half of that.
And the fire truck lease, I'm gonna be careful as well, as we'll wind up with more than one fire truck on lease at a time as well. So you can wind up with
Yeah.
a little bit of trouble there.
Or I got one on lease that we did when,
Right.
I think right as the week I came in, walked in the door.
Right. Sorry, that was my fault.
So I just kind of wanted to set the stage, show you a couple things, and then I wanted to kind of roll out some of the leasing options and what it looks like as far as a model for 10 years out on what it might look like. Any other questions on this before we move to?
Yeah, how does this proposal help or hurt our ability to finance a $60 million public safety facility.
I don't think it affects it at all. I mean, it'll take away a little bit of, fund balance. But I think we have some that we can spare there. The vehicle we're looking for the public safety building will basically pledge any revenue. So it's not just general fund revenues. We're looking at a strong presence for our TIF and some other funds that we would not use to fund, any capital purchases from.
Ms. Rhonda,
Yes, sir.
if we were to project out, and I appreciate you putting some of these scenarios down, and maybe I'm asking a question that's going to be on a subsequent page, so maybe I'm premature, but have we kind of compared our lease arrangement to maybe a 10-year replacement cycle if we purchased versus a 7-year replacement cycle, and kind of looked at where our total expenditures line up? Kind of see if there's a sweet spot somewhere there.
I haven't done that. I assumed, and Beth, you want to go to the next slide and I'll see if this helps. So I assumed a 7-year life, and I know there's not a lot of numbers on here. I'll just apologize. But it's the only way I could kind of do it. I assumed a 7-year life for a police car. And I'm assuming, and that's probably maybe a little tight. I don't know. Some of them will, some of them won't. Chief Wright requested 28. I put 20 on here. And then in subsequent years, put 15. I just didn't, I felt like that was kind of all I could really put on this. So you can see the total cash outlay because it's layered. In FY29, it goes to $1.7 million. Obviously, if I stretch this lease out longer, then the interest cost is going to be a little bit higher. And I don't know, I have to do the calculations to see if it will be, any of the cash outlay would be much less. I don't really think it will, because you're getting some, then you're getting a couple of free years out of not paying for equipment a little bit as we layer on. The green is when you have to start replacing those vehicles that we just bought this year. So I think 1.7. Again, this is a 4.5% interest rate, which I think is a little bit high. We're in such a volatile situation right now. I don't know. So I just picked a little bit on the high side. But I can do some of that to see if there is another, I don't know that we can go 10 years on life. Yeah.
Absolutely no way. Can't happen.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, I've lost 5 cars in the last 4 months from motors blown up, car crashes. We're gonna grow, our police department's gonna grow. Obviously, we'll have a bigger tax base. But with growth of the agency, losing cars and the life, we're already in a 9-year replacement right now, and this is longer than everybody else around. And it's just, I mean, that's your officer's lives driving around in those cars. So I know this number, she's worked very hard on this. I know she's worked very hard on this, and I appreciate that. But there's one officer I didn't even consider put into these numbers. You're talking about a 7-year replacement, that's stretching it. We talked about going to a 5-year replacement, so you all will actually have a replacement plan in place. But if we don't have the money, we can't do anything. So I just want to make sure you hear from me that she's doing everything she can as a steward of taxpayers' dollar, but then there's legitimate facts that you have to factor in that are not listed in numbers. And that's what I was told you. So.
Appreciate the insight, Chief.
So I really just, again, I just kind of wanted to set the stage. We'll be talking about this in budget retreat, but it is a lot to digest, and kind of wanted just to kind of start the topic, give you something to think about. And I'll revisit some things and see if there's anything that I can do.
And I'll just add that these are decisions that we need to be getting to the point of making at or near the budget meeting that's coming up later this month. And certainly by first reading in May, if we're fortunate enough to be able to get the budget matured to the point of having first reading in May, which is what we are shooting for. So be looking at these numbers and thinking hard.
Council members, any other questions?
Did I have another slide? So you can look at this at your leisure, but I just put together some scenarios. I calculate a lot of numbers and sometimes you just still don't get an answer that you can live with. But anyway, some various payments based on number of cars and 3 and 4 years. I can stretch it out to 5 and see what it's like. I just felt like maybe this was a smarter thing to go 3 and 4. When I looked at the results of City of Charleston, there was very little difference in the rate between 3 and 4, but it did jump up when you went to 5. So another reason that I kind of stuck in this hole. So just food for thought. Okay, I got one more item. Again, along with the budget, and the fee schedule is always attached to the budget ordinance. And we had just a few fee changes, and I felt like maybe we could go over some of those tonight, so you'd have a little bit of information. And if there are any objections, we can certainly iron those out during budget retreat. But I'm going to ask Amy just to discuss hers. If you don't mind.
So the first two items there are related to athletics over at Gahagan. They are all both for adult leagues. Just the way that we handle those, we felt like we could streamline some of that. So for in-house adult leagues, that would be $50 for residents, $70 for non-residents. Third-party adult leagues would be $300 a team. The third item down, the full facility rental, that's for the Rollins Edwards Community Center. A Friday, Saturday, Sunday weekend rental is $2,000. So we felt a 50% discount Monday through Thursday was appropriate for that facility. Cuthbert Doty, moving that up to $350. Annual league fee, that is a new fee, and that is basically a discount. So if you were to participate with us through the whole year, you would essentially get 1 season free, if you will, of the 4 seasons. And then the next group there is restructuring the way that we charge for tournaments at Gahagan. Just the way that we operate now is different than they did, 7 years ago. So we felt this made a little bit more sense for what we're doing now. Barricades is for, permitted events. That would be $30 a barricade. Park impact fee, moving that up to $200. And then the court hourly fee. So we've had a lot of requests to host tournaments, whether that be on Laurel Street or over at Wassmus on the basketball courts. So right now, if you're hosting an event at Gahagan, you pay a field fee, but we don't have a court fee. So this is if you are reserving that court for your use for your tournament, your fundraiser, you would pay that court fee. Any questions for those items?
For the court fees, is that for league play or that's not, isn't Somerville High School using our tennis courts for their team in the interim?
They do some. That's not what this is for. This is for if you as a private citizen want to host an event at Laurel Street for a fundraiser for DD2. If you're coming in, you would fill out a special event permit, but you would pay that court fee to basically close that facility to the public. If that makes sense.
So $15 per hour
Correct.
total or per person, or how's that?
It's $15 per hour per court. So like if you're looking at Saul Alexander where there's 4 courts, so you would be paying $60 an hour if you wanted to reserve all 4 courts.
$15 an hour doesn't hardly seem worth it to take it offline for the use of the general public.
We are trying to, it's a balance of, we feel like there definitely needs to be a fee. I mean, they're taking a public amenity and closing it. But we also wanted to keep it affordable enough because most of these, they are fundraisers for good nonprofits, local to support local resources. So we also didn't want to make it too high to where it wasn't a feasible option for them to do. But we can adjust it as you guys feel appropriate.
I don't know what the number is. It's just 15 just seems, if we're going to do it, 15 doesn't hardly seem worthwhile.
Council members, any other thoughts?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We have one for building and permitting. Have Rebecca explain.
So we're just proposing to increase the reinspection fee from $50 to $150 for the second visit. It's been $50 for a very long time, and it's not like this line item is a money-driven income, source for the building department. But we've compared to what other jurisdictions are doing, and we're very, very low. So we feel like this is pretty fair. For example, Dorchester County does have $150 for the reinspection fee, and then they actually continually increase each time they go out. We're not even wanting to do that. Berkeley County, they're $100 for a reinspection fee, then they bump up to $250. Goose Creek's doubles every time they go up, $100, $200, $400, $800. So I feel like this is pretty reasonable.
Council members, any thoughts there? Nope. All right.
The last section is finance. When we were discussing the budget, we talked about trying to cover and pass along the credit card processing fees.
Right.
I would still like to get these numbers down so that it costs the citizen less. There are a lot of jurisdictions that have only $1 or $1.50 charge for e-checks. Currently, our processor does not. They charge me, almost 1% for that. So I'm looking at changing processors too, so we can try to get that down. But presently, this is what it would take to recoup our bank charges on credit card processing fees. And so that's just kind of much as I can do. The other item kind of just kind of cropped up as we were talking the last few weeks. The multi-day special event permit license is not a permit for such as Parks and Rec, that some vendors like third Thursday is $20, and they pay that every third Thursday. They pay $20. We have for any multi-day event, such as the Flowertown Festival, which I think currently is our only multi-day event like that. They pay the same $20. And I would like to increase that mainly just to cover our costs. I mean, we buy a lot of food. I think Amy spent over $6,000 on food for all of Public Works, which they certainly deserve. And with the time that it takes finance to process an issue and, all those out-of-pocket costs, I don't feel like that is an unfair ask to those vendors. Any questions or comments on that?
Mr. Ronnie, what kind of, I remember we talked about the credit card processing fees at our last budget meeting. What were the revenue numbers looking like for that? That we weren't gonna have to spend on bank fees?
We're up to, I think last year we were up to like 260, 270.
260,000.
Yeah. Which honestly, this is one of the components to getting the budget balance.
Right, yeah.
It's taking that line item out.
It's a big chunk.
It is. And then, like I say, I'm going to look on both sides, MasterCard Visas, but definitely e-checks, because I want people to have a low cost way to pay.
Mhm.
And I know I've talked to Dorchester County because I think they charge $1.50, and they have a processor that charges them $1.50. So I'm gonna.
That's the one I was curious about, because most places I've used e-checks, they offer that in lieu of paying the 3% processing fee of the credit card. They'll let you pay with the e-check for no charge, essentially.
The only way that would work is if I were worried about a flood of people lining up.
Right.
Down the,
Paying e-check, yeah.
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 But if I were to charge $1.50,
Mhm.
I would lose, because it's charging me, you get some of the big dollar payments that come in for business licenses, and you know, right off the bat, I've got 0.75% just right off the top. So I can't, as much as I want to do that right now, I can't quite do that, but hopefully we can find a lower cost processor and be able to change that.
Thank you.
And just for clarification, this is only for the convenience of using those two services. Our folks can still pay with cash or check or,
That's correct. Yes.
so
Yeah,
it is a convenience to them.
it is.
And
It
but I
is.
appreciate you looking for ways to make it cheaper.
Definitely. I
But-
want to, I feel like I can, the only thing that concerns me is if our volume is not there. You know, we might not have the volume that we can get the discount that some processors offer, but we're gonna try. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you.
Anything else? And we'll talk about this again when the budget retreat briefly, but like I say, I wanted you to have at least understand those. That's all I have.
All right. Item D, transfer of town road funds in the amount of $342,000 to Berkeley County for engineering, right-of-way acquisition, and permitting services related to the Cedar Street Extension Project.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Item E, the Police Department requests approval for a purchase order for $67,918.04 made out to Wade Ford to purchase one 2023 Ford Expedition with emergency equipment and upfitting. The funds will come from proceeds from vehicle insurance disbursements received in 2024.
I make a motion that we approve this, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Item F, the SPD requests approval for a purchase order for $227,456 made out to Cooper Motor Company to purchase 5 2023 Dodge Chargers with emergency equipment and upfitting. The funds will come from proceeds from vehicle insurance disbursements received in 2024.
I move that we approve this also, Mr. Mayor. The proceeds are coming from the vehicle insurance disbursement.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Item G, surplus vehicle request from the Police Department, P45, P273, P263, P280, P285, P289, P302, and P358.
Move for approval of surplus those vehicles.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the surplus. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Item H, surplus vehicle request from Parks and Recreation, R221 a 2008 Dodge Durango with 114,023 miles.
I'll make a motion that we approve that.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Good evening, Finance Committee. Just a couple things real quickly. I thought the festival went really well over the weekend. Throngs of people were here. It was my first one, and I want to provide my public thanks to all of your staff who did a great job and provided excellent service to our attendees. I think I tried to get out and speak to as many of them as I could over the couple of days, and everybody seemed happy to be here despite the heat and the crowds, but they were doing an excellent job. So if you get a chance to thank them, please do so. We are this week going to be conducting our construction manager at risk interviews for the public safety complex. Frank and a team and I are going to be talking to the different respondents. We have several respondents that we're going to interview over the next couple of days, and we'll be making recommendations based on those interviews and their credentials and the scoring that we have. So we are moving forward with that. And we will obviously be talking more about the public safety complex as the months come up. Budget workshop April the 22nd, Tuesday. It's a Tuesday. It's not a Wednesday. Tuesday, the 22nd. We'll be here in the training room. As you got a preview, you'll see some more of these items. See these items that you saw tonight. You'll see these again. And then, as I suggested earlier, we really want to be making some decisions to move us forward toward first reading at the May council meeting. We expect to hold the public hearing we expect to hold the public hearing at the June council meeting, which would also correspond with second reading of the budget. That's our plan according to our schedule. I will be out of town next week, so if you need me for anything over the next couple of weeks, please come and see me or call me, email me. I can come run into you. Just let me know. But happy to take any questions you may have about anything I discussed or have not discussed.
Council members?
Great.
Good
Thanks.
report, sir. Thank you.
Next is Finance Committee Executive Session, Contractual Matter, Discussion of Negotiations Incident to a Proposed Sale of Town Property, TMS numbers 13011000024, 025, 026, 027, and 028.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to go into executive session to discuss negotiations incident to a proposed sale of town-owned property at the TMS numbers listed on the page. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are in executive session.